wanted to talk a little bit about leadership today, and leadership in terms of comparing it with management, good management compared with good leadership. What's the difference? How does one compare the two? How do they work? What's the story behind it? I first gave a lot of thought about leadership in comparing it with management skills when I was in South Africa, and it was brought home to me, obviously by leaders of the time then in South Africa that I listened to with intent as I was a young and up and coming manager. South Africa, the dynamics were quite different, because when I was in South Africa back in the early 80s as a young manager, the leadership was scarce in the management field I was in. What happened? There's a ratio of there's 20% of the world are leaders, the other 80% are followers, and that ratio is the rough split throughout the world. You're born a leader. You're taught management skills. Leadership is something that is within us. It can be toned and developed, yes, as far as developing those skills go. But you tend to be born a leader. You aren't born a good manager. You are develop those skills to become a good manager. In South Africa, the dynamics are different, as I was saying. What happened there, because they're of the population differential between black people and white people, and at the time of apartheid in the 1980s, and before, for that matter, the 20-80% ratio in white people was used to capacity, to the extent where the 20% leaders, natural leaders that were white, were put into those positions, gained those positions, has those positions. But then the balance was made up of people in leadership roles that weren't leaders as white people, because black people weren't getting leadership roles. Now, there were black leaders as well. The 80-20 ratio with black leaders was there. But the black leaders were either in prison on Robben Island or had escaped the country and were living somewhere north of South Africa, or were running trade unions and things like that. They were leaders of the workers' trade unions, who ended up in prison then generally as well after a while if they were good leaders. So that was how the process worked. So when I got to South Africa, there are a few very, very good managers who possess good leadership skills, but there are a great deal who lacked leadership qualities at all. And it was more of a role they played, like in the military. They were given a rank as a manager, and because they were ranked as a manager, they commanded in a way that was very much authoritarian, and they didn't have nobody followed them because they believed them. They followed them because they wanted the job and they had no choice. And 9 times out of 10, they ended up in tears in a lot of these particular roles. My up and coming video is going to talk about the leadership roles that I experienced, what I believe makes a good leader and why, and what I think is lacking in terms of our leadership qualities of our political leaders now in the country, and who are good leaders and who aren't. Where are the good leaders? Why are they good leaders? And also those that are in leadership roles that aren't good leaders. So we can discuss that in more detail. and that's coming up in the next few days.